Hall of Famer Eric Dickerson.
What's up, everybody? I'm Matt Leinart, 2004 Heisman Trophy winner.
Hey, I'm Zane Gonzalez.
Hi, I'm Matt Barry from ESPN. You're getting ready to watch one of the best college football podcasts ever. It's the Harris Highlight Show.
You're watching the Harris Highlight Show.
And you're watching the Harris Highlight Show.
And you listen to the Harris Highlight Show. Enjoy it.
Na 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 na.
Coming to you live from the Chateau in beautiful Monrovia, California. This is the Harris Highlight Show. Joining me this week is our college football analyst, Josh Schaefer, our college football expert, Lyle Goldstein, our executive producer, Brady Klain, and I'm your host for the evening, Blake Harris. Gentlemen, how's everyone's Tuesday night going?
Well, wait, actually, hold on 1 second.
Guys, what's he doing?
Blake, I'm doing just fine today. Thanks for having me over. We're wearing our new matching Dodgers World Series champion gold jerseys because we're absolute nerds. But also, Manchester United backed out of the Super League today, and the chairman resigned. So that's big news. But I'm doing great. How are you?
Fantastic.
Would it shock you to know, Josh, that I've been following a bunch of the Super League stuff, or no, because it's all over Twitter? Oh, he doesn't have his headphones in. Josh, would it shock you to know I've actually been following all this Super League stuff, or no?
It would shock me, and it makes me so happy that you are. That's good news.
Yeah. Good for soccer. Good for soccer.
Massive for soccer.
Yeah. I'm doing well.
I'm just great.
You know, it's fantastic. The fact that that Josh is in my apartment and he still has a better lighting setup than I do since I'm right next to the window. So his lighting looks a whole lot better than mine.
Are you guys together by chance? That would be really cool.
Like between Seattle and Carmel, or Kirkland, Washington and Carmel, Indiana?
If Brady shows up in your screen, I'm going to lose my mind. No, that's disappointing.
Yeah, not today. Not today.
Disappointing.
We got a fun jam-packed show, guys. This is part 3 of our 4-part series of doing live NFL mock drafts. The last few weeks, we've been doing 8 picks per show. So we have part number 3 now. So we're going to be doing picks 17 through 24 tonight. So we have a lot going on. Again, for those of you that are just tuning in for the first time, essentially what we're doing is every week we do 8 picks, 1 through 8, 9 through 16, 17 through 24. Next week, we're going to do 25 through 32 on Tuesday nights. And then next Thursday, we're going to be going live for the NFL draft. Haven't decided what exactly the timetable is going to be yet, how early we're going to be going. I was talking with Josh earlier, maybe something like 30 minutes or so before the NFL draft starts, just to kind of just do a final roundup, talk about the latest moves, the latest trades and everything. And pretty much as the show is going to be going on, we're going to be consuming alcohol. You guys are more than welcome to join in. We're going to be trying to bring in guests, players, analysts, fans from all different teams. So whenever a certain team's on the clock, bring in a fan of that team to hear their insight, to hear their thoughts, who they want to pick. When their team doesn't pick that player, watch them go absolutely nuts. It's going to be an absolutely fun time. Unfortunately, 2 of our analysts on the show don't have a first-round pick, at least as of right now. So that can change. Things can become a lot more interesting, a lot more exciting. But again, next Thursday night, follow us on Twitter at the HH__ for more details. But yeah, essentially, we're going to be live during the NFL draft, giving our immediate reactions, our immediate thoughts, and hopefully getting absolutely what we say schmacked and having ourselves a good time.
I can A, promise you I won't, and B, probably won't be on for the entire time because I have a flight at 8 a.m. the next morning. So sorry, guys. But I'll be there. Don't worry. For most of it.
Off the show.
All right.
Yeah, considering that the first round literally goes like 4 hours, we're not going to be doing it the entire first round. So probably maybe like the first 15, 16 picks, because that should probably take.
Colts pick, and then we're done.
until the Colts pick. Yeah, we're not going to make it to the Saints at like 27. That's just going to be absolutely absurd. So, guys, a live NFL mock draft. No need to really go in depth and talk about who we had 1 through 16 because it's a lot to get to. That's a lot of picks to go over. If there's a player that you think should have been around this area, well, that probably means we already took him in our top 16, or we have him saved for next week in the 25 through 32 range. So let's get things kicked off. Again, we're starting at pick number 17 today. So if your team picks 1 through 16, go to one of our previous shows from a few weeks ago. We do a mock draft for your team there, but we're starting with number 17. So Josh, we'll kick it off to you. Again, for those of you that have tuned in for the first time, we're allowed to do trades if you want. I know myself, I did a lot of trades. Lyle did a lot of trades. Brady and Josh, they said they're keeping theirs exactly how it is. So their picks are going to be based off the teams that are currently picking there, whereas Lyle and myself, there might be a different team picking at that spot, but we're going to explain why because we made a trade. So if all of a sudden you have the Saints at 17, we'll explain why.
Yeah, so Blake and I were joking around earlier that I should just not do any trades until pick 32, and then it changes everything in my entire draft. But anyway, like he said, Brady and I aren't doing any trades. We're just going to go stock up and down with all the picks. And it starts with 17, so I've got the Raiders picking at 17. And here I've got them taking my second linebacker off the board, which is Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. How was that, Lyle? Good? Thumbs up?
You nailed it.
Yes, get in there. Basically, I think the Raiders are in need of a playmaking linebacker, and I think that after Micah Parsons, maybe even before Micah Parsons, I think he might be probably one of the most intelligent linebackers in this draft. And then you pair that with a guy who's also a very dominant pass rusher, can drop back a little bit. I think, again, like we had him, I don't remember where he finished in our Harris highlights ranking, but I'm pretty sure he was the guy that I ranked at number 1 for my linebacker of the year. And I think he'd be a good fit for the Raiders. So I've got Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah with a perfect pronunciation going at 17 to Vegas.
I've got Vegas at 17 as well, and this is a team that, shocker, needs a lot of pieces to fill. I mean, they traded their entire offensive line, or what felt like most of it this offseason, and they need some help on the defensive side of the ball. I went defense as well for this pick, but I didn't go linebacker. I went edge rusher, and I have the Raiders taking Jalen Phillips out of Miami here at 17. Look, they could use some edge help. They took Cleveland Farrell a couple of years ago. That hasn't really panned out great to this point. They've got a couple of good pieces. Ngakoue was a good signing. Max Crosby is a good player, but it all starts in the trenches. You got to build up your pass rush. And Jalen Phillips, look, this is a guy that totally shot up toward the top half of the first round from his play this year. And Chris Collinsworth went as far as say the other day that he thinks this is hands down the best defensive player in the draft. Look, so he's got size, he's got power, he's got speed. His 40 time was good, and he's quick off the edge. I think this is a piece that'll fit the Raiders well. So I've got Jalen Phillips at 17.
I also had the same needs that Lyle brought up a minute ago, is pretty much everything, but I went with the offensive line. I had them taking Tevin Jenkins, the offensive lineman or the offensive tackle from Oklahoma State. You know, with so much uncertainty about Derek Carr moving forward, at least from the outside perspective, to help signify or solidify his job, I think it starts up front. And I think that Jenkins is one of those guys that we saw at Oklahoma State this last year play really well. He jumped up a lot of draft boards late, and he's one of those sort of overlooked guys that could go pretty high in the first half of the first round. So I've got Vegas taking Tevin Jenkins from Oklahoma State.
This one, I have a trade here last week when I was doing this. So this pick's actually going to be by the Giants because I had the Raiders trading up to get Micah Parsons last week in that. Now, guys, something I didn't know that was coming out today in the news is that the New York Giants are supposedly open to trading back from the number 11 spot. So not only did I call it last week by saying the Giants are going to trade, I was a week ahead of the curve. And I guess supposedly the Giants never trade back when it comes to the NFL draft, because I was talking about seeing Ian Rappaport talking about how rare this is if the Giants trade back. So apparently the Giants never trade back, but I was on it a week ago. So I got the Giants here at number 17, and I actually had them going with Jalen Phillips as well. So a similar pick that we had earlier. And overall, I think it's just, this is a guy that what Lyle said, Chris Collinsworth said that this guy can be like the best defensive prospect in this entire draft class or something like that. This guy was a number one overall, recruit defensively. I think he was actually the top recruit according to 24/7 Sports for a reason. His talent's there. He was great at Miami last year. So I think if you're the Giants, again, we talked about this where it's kind of tough trying to pick out what the Giants are going to do. I know you guys talked about the Giants in the show last week and I didn't, but I wouldn't be shocked if they go offense. I wouldn't be shocked if they go defense. But I think Jaelan Phillips, I think here is simply just too good to pass up at 17. So I got him there. We're going to the Giants, whereas all you guys had the Raiders picking here at 17, which brings us now to pick number 18.
So for me, I've got the Dolphins picking at 18, which is where they are just generally. And this is actually where I have Jaelan Phillips going. So I think you're right. I think he's too good to pass up at this point, but there's been so many conflicting reports of where people think he's worthy to be drafted. Again, I think I mentioned this last week when I had Gregory Rousseau go off the board a few picks ago. I had him go into the Cardinals at 16 to end our show last week. And I said that you've got two really good edge rushers from Miami. And it seems like if one of them is rated really high in the first round, the other one's rated at the end of the first round and vice versa. I think Phillips is really good. And like you mentioned, like this was a guy that was like the number one overall recruit coming out of high school, went to UCLA and then transferred. I think he's too good to pass up at 18. Frankly, I think he could be higher. I think he could go lower. The Dolphins just straightforward, I think, need a pass rusher. And why not go for a guy that's already popular in Miami?
I have the Dolphins picking here at 18, and I guess our 17, 18 picks are just flip-flop because I had Phillips at 17, you have him at 18, and here for me at 18 is where I have Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah going off the board. I have the Dolphins taking him here at 18. This is a spot I've seen him landing a ton when you're scrolling through mock drafts and watching draft shows, just because it feels like linebacker's a need for Miami. And look, linebacker is such a tough position to transfer from the college level to the NFL level at, because you're asked to do so much and learn such a thick playbook so fast. And so many linebackers these days are asked to cover. But for Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, that's what he does really well. Josh talked about he's intelligent, he's really fast, but his best asset might be his ability to cover. I mean, he'll take on running backs, he can take on tight ends. Every now and then he'll take on a receiver. So for a guy that's kind of a hybrid / modern day linebacker, I think he's a really good fit for what the Dolphins want to do, and I think he fits a need.
I also am going to take someone here that both of you guys have taken within the last two picks. I'm going Jaelan Phillips to Miami as well. I think he's a good fit. Like Josh said, he's already liked in Miami. People know who he is. He's a great player. He's very athletic. He's versatile. He's one of those guys on the defensive side of the ball who's able to play outside of his position. And when I say that, I mean, yeah, he's listed as a defensive end, but he also can, get in a 2-point stance, go in the 2 technique, and go with as an outside linebacker position if need be. So I think that Jaelan Phillips is a really good player to slot to Miami at 18.
Yeah, so I mean, all of us have Jaelan Phillips just going again right around this area, kind of like the high teens or so. I do have the Dolphins, no trades just quite yet. We have a few more trades coming up. I got the Dolphins going with a name I don't think we've mentioned yet, Azeez Ojulari from Georgia. Now, it's been interesting seeing him in a bunch of different mocks because I've seen him mocked in some as a linebacker. I've seen him mocked a few times as an edge. Not exactly certain what the plan is for him at the next level, but the dude's a stud regardless of where you're going to play him. He's a really good athlete. And if you're the Dolphins, again, you're sitting in a spot here where considering that their number 6 pick is apparently on the table as well. So this actually might be their first pick of the night, depending on what they do with it. If this is your second pick you're making in the first round and you can get a guy that's, this talented, I think it's going to be an absolute steal for the Dolphins. Again, not exactly certain where they're going to use him because, like I said, I've seen him slotted as a linebacker or a defensive end. So regardless, I think he'd be a great addition. Again, not sure where the Dolphins would use him, but this is a guy I've been seeing climbing up a lot of mocks as of late as well. He was kind of like a guy that was late first, early second, about a month or something ago. And now I'm seeing him slide into the mid-20s, early 20s, even back in teens, which is where I got him going to the Dolphins right now. So I got Azeez going at number 18, which brings us now to pick number 19.
So at 19 for the Washington Football Club, a team that actually withdrew from the European Super League today, along with all those English teams. I I think they could go linebacker. I think they could go edge here, but they also have a pick coming up early in the second round. And I think that given the fact that I have Rousseau off the board, I have Phillips off the board, I do still have Azeez Ojulari on the board, like Blake just brought up, and he's kind of versatile. Some people have him as an outside linebacker. Some people have him as an edge. At this point, I think Washington FC should just pump the brakes a little bit on the edge and go for a linebacker. I think they need a linebacker, and I think the next best on the board right here is Zaven Collins, who was another finalist for the prestigious Harris Highlights Award Player of the Year, or Linebacker of the Year. And I think he's a good pick. There are a lot of drafts that have him going fairly high. Some of them have him falling late into the first round. I think if he's there at 19, I think he's an excellent pick for Washington if they can get him here. So why not get him here? And then you still are going to have a couple of really good edge rushers still on the board, likely coming up early in the second round. I think they're at 30, 34 maybe, 30, 35, something like that. And if they have a pick coming up early in the second round, I think they can get another edge rusher there without having to reach for somebody.
Yeah, I have the Washington football team at pick 19 too, and we know these guys are going to be searching around and kind of digging around to see if there's a way that they can trade up for a quarterback on draft night. I think linebacker is also a need. I think receivers also not a need, but an area they hope to add to, just because their defense is so strong, but they're trying to really boost that offense, whether it's Ryan Fitzpatrick or a rookie quarter. I mean, I guess if it's a rookie quarterback, they probably wouldn't have this pick. But if they stick with Fitzpatrick for this year, I think they're looking to kind of boost these weapons and get as many threats on the outside as they can. And I have Rashad Bateman slotted in here at 19. I mean, this is a guy that has a high floor and doesn't really have a lot of weaknesses. I mean, he's a pretty complete receiver all around. We're talking about a guy that averaged 20 yards a catch in his sophomore season. He's a good route runner. He's got a good first step. He doesn't drop a lot of balls. And you put him in there with Terry McLaurin and Curtis Samuel, that's a really good receiving core. And again, you need not an average or slightly above average receiving core to succeed and really compete. You need a really, really good one. And I think this makes the Washington football team's receiving core potentially really good if they go with Bateman at 19.
I also have Washington picking at 19, and I have a guy that's fallen a bit. Some of you guys had him taken already. Yes, their defense is really strong, but I think if this guy's still on the board at this point, I think he's one of those guys that you're going to have to jump in and take. I have Washington taking Caleb Farley at 19. I think I'm falling to 19, but it's, he's a great player. Obviously, didn't play this last year, and for obviously the COVID sitting out and for the COVID protocols and things of that nature. But I think Farley, I think Farley is one of the most versatile defensive players in this draft. Can, play a nickel corner, can also play an actual straight on corner. So I think Caleb Farley to Washington is going to be a pretty good fit, even though they do need a receiver and they do need some offensive weapons. I think if Farley's still on the board here, I don't think you can pass him up.
I think it's a good pick. He's fallen quite a bit too. So if he's there, I say take him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my next one, we have a trade, but this isn't a trade that's just happening. This is a trade going back to our first episode because I had the Washington Football Club trading up to the number 4 spot to essentially get whatever quarterback's available there, which looks like more and more it's going to be Justin Fields because, the 49ers want Mac Jones, and that's okay. So I actually have the Atlanta Falcons picking here at number 19, and I said it when I talked about the Falcons on that show a few weeks ago. I think this Falcons team, I think they're a good enough team where they have a chance to compete for a playoff spot and potentially win games in the playoffs. A lot of these teams that are picking in the top 5, top 6, there's no chance they're going to make the playoffs next year. Maybe the Bengals you can make a small case for, but I guess technically the Dolphins, but since they've been all over the place with trades. But I really think this Falcons team has a chance to be really good, and you already have a solid offense. Their defense is okay. They can use some upgrades. I'm not exactly certain what players they've added so far, but you got to protect Matt Ryan. I know there's been talk of them drafting a quarterback at 4 and start building, but Matt Ryan has a few years left in the tank at least. He's still, probably a top 12 quarterback in the NFL. Give him protection. I don't know if he's going to be sitting here come draft night at number 19. Not that it's going to matter because I don't think the Falcons are going to be picking at 19 anyway. But in case they are, I got Elijah Vera Tucker, which I think if you can get him at 19, that's an absolute steal. Again, I think he's going to go much earlier, but based on how my mock draft shaped out, I got him going to 19. Again, get Matt Ryan some help. I mean, if you're sitting there, the Falcons at 4 and they don't trade, if you can take Penei Sewell, I think Matt Ryan will be very appreciative of that. So I got to go on offensive line. Elijah Vera Tucker, a lot of people have him as the second or third best offensive lineman in the draft. So again, if you're able to get him this late in the first round, I think you absolutely got to get it done. So that's why I got the Falcons taken again. One of my few trades that was kind of all over the place, but why not? You know, if you're the Falcons, if you can get a lot for that number 4 pick, trade back, get a few draft picks, and hopefully help Matt Ryan get him back to the playoffs, which takes us, guys, to pick number 20.
So with Chicago at 20, there's obviously been some stuff kind of up in the air with Kyle Fuller and what his injury's like, and his agent said that he's fine, and the doctor said that he was fine, but I know there's still a little bit of concern with what the secondary might look like. So for Chicago, here's a guy that Lyle, I believe, had going in our last show a few picks earlier, Greg Newsome from Northwestern. I think that he's a really good defensive back. It's a bummer that we did not get to see him for more than 6 games this past year because I think he's a really talented cornerback. And I think this next statement, I don't think he's the best corner on that team, on that Northwestern team this past year. So I think that's saying something about the guys that they still have there. But he only allowed 12 catches all of last season. They played, 7 games? I think it was 7 or 8 games, whatever Northwestern played. And I think he can make an immediate impact in that secondary, especially if there is some sort of lingering injury with Kyle Fuller.
Yeah, I like that pick. I don't have Newsome off my board yet. I may or may not have him later. But I'm with you that the Bears need some help in the secondary because I have him going the same route, but I have him taking J.C. Horn with this pick. He's not off my board yet, and I think he's a really good press corner. He's got the size. He's had some success against good SEC receivers. And I think he's going to translate well to a Bears secondary that needs some help at corner. So I think this is a pretty easy fit. If there's a couple corners on the board that the Bears like at pick 20, I think J.C. Horn makes a lot of sense.
Well, I will say this real quick. Kyle Fuller was cut, and he's currently in Denver right now.
More of a reason to draft a defensive back.
Josh, which one did you go with? Newsome?
Greg Newsome.
I also have Gregory Newsome going here to Chicago. The Northwestern tie, the Chicago tie, the Illinois tie, I think it just all makes sense, and it's a big need for them. But who knows what they're going to do with quarterback?
They should try Russell Wilson.
Yeah, right.
Well, according to their tweet, QB1 is officially Andy Dalton.
Andy Dalton.
So,
the Red Rockets QB1 in
Chicago. Which is a perfect transition into who I have. Well, if you have Andy Dalton as your quarterback, you need to have him give him as much protection as possible. So I got them going with Tevin Jenkins, offensive line from Oklahoma State. For the most part, I mean, you got a solid enough, receiving core with Allen Robinson. You got a few other weapons right there. I don't think you reach. And maybe Rashad Bateman if he's there, but I don't think there's any wide receiver or let alone running back that you reach for here to improve the offense. We know the Bears defense is still one of the best in all of the NFL. Maybe they go cornerback route based on the Fuller news and if they want to go that direction. But again, you got to protect Andy Dalton. This guy's going to be your QB1 according to you guys. The Bears, they're a good quarterback away from being a really good team in the NFL. Andy Dalton, is he an upgrade over Mitchell Trubisky and Nick Foles? Maybe. I don't know. I still don't want to play that game with Andy Dalton. But again, give him some protection, see what happens, and hope for the best because now Mitchell Trubisky's gone and Patrick Mahomes went after him. You traded up to get Mitchell Trubisky, and now you have Andy Dalton. So Chicago, you boofed up. Pick number 21, guys. I think this is going to be a fun one because one of the team picking here belongs to a fandom of one of our dearest.
Do we want to let Brady go first with this one?
I don't give a shit. Go ahead.
What? Excuse me? A what?
I wasn't going to say it, but I will. I'm at that point in the day. I don't really care. Y'all can go ahead.
If you're sure.
I'm sure.
Guys, I am confident that number 1, Kyle Fuller is not on the Indianapolis Colts. And number 2, Carson Wentz is in fact the quarterback.
Indeed he is.
So I'm already 2 for 2 right here. So let's see if I can go 3 for 3 with the pick. I don't have them taking a cornerback because, again, they don't have any Kyle Fuller issues. They already solved the quarterback problem here. So I think, obviously, why not give him a little bit of protection? I think he's got some pretty good weapons on this offense already. They were trending upward last year. It's an upstart offense. It seems to be an upstart team. Give Carson Wentz a quarterback. Give Carson Wentz your quarterback a little bit of help, a little bit of protection. Take Darrisaw from Virginia Tech, give him a tackle, and add a little bit to the offense. And at least if he's not playing right now, it's a guy that's going to rotate in. Again, we talked about how impressive the offensive line had been last year for most of the season. And then we'd even talked on this show that Brady and I, for a time, said, hey, go get Sam Darnold, let him sit behind Philip Rivers for a year, and then go to work with a better offensive line and good young talent around him rather than be in New York. Obviously, that didn't happen. Philip Rivers ain't there anymore. So now you've got your quarterback. You've got some young talent around him. Go get an offensive lineman and start building your offense up a little bit more.
I think the obvious need here is somebody to replace Anthony Costanzo. I know that's been their big storyline. My only issue here is, in my personal opinion, I already have Sewell, Slater, and Darrisaw off the board along with Vera Tucker. I don't know if there's an offensive tackle at pick 21 that I personally believe is worth getting here. I have Jenkins, for example, a little bit lower on my board. So I think another need for this team is edge rusher. I mean, obviously they have DeForest Buckner up at D tackle, and they've got Darius Leonard in the linebacker spot. Like, they have a good front seven, but they've got to add a little bit on the edge. So I think Kwity Paye from Michigan makes a little bit of sense here. So this is who I have at 21 to the Colts. He's got a good first step. We didn't get to see a whole ton of him this year because he only played 4 games, but talent's through the roof. He's talked about in the past having the chance to go in the top 10 to 12. I know he slid a little bit on most of our boards, but I think him at 21 to the Colts makes a lot of sense. I think he can make an impact as a defensive end there.
I have the same exact thought that you had there, Lyle, about the offensive tackle need. The loss of Costanzo, who was, the staple of their offensive line for the last 10 years, and honestly, my opinion, obviously I'm a little biased, but I think it's true, is he was one of the most, underappreciated left tackles in all of the NFL. He played almost every game for 10 straight years and was the left tackle for Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck, and Philip Rivers. I mean, it's a pretty good combo right there. But
yeah, and he was really good. So.
He was really good. I also think that there is a slight drop off between the first 3 and 4 tackles and then the rest of the group. So I don't have them taking a tackle here. I think the loss of Danico Autry on the defensive line is big for the Colts, and an edge rusher obviously is a big need for them. I don't have them taking Kwity Paye, but I do have them going Azeez Ojulari from Georgia. So I think he's very athletic and obviously someone to complement DeForest Buckner, who's just a complete game wrecker. Darius Leonard in the linebacking core leading that. Lost Anthony Walker, who was our other big linebacker, but we have a good secondary right now. And I mean, it's kind of hard to beat. As you said earlier, you need 2 or 3 really good receivers. The Colts have a decent receiving core, but their running game is going to be very dangerous moving forward. So I think Ojulari is going to be a pretty decent fit here in Indy and could complement a guy like DeForest Buckner.
Yeah, if the Colts were picking at like 12, 13, 14, this would be like the slam dunk, easiest pick of the draft when it comes to getting one of these offensive lineman replacements. Yeah. But like, again, I had Tevin Jenkins already up.
Really quickly, Frank Ballard, or Chris Ballard, the GM here, is not a guy to trade up in the draft. So there's no way I see them getting one of these guys.
So pretty much for the most part, offensive line I took off. Again, you could go edge, but again, I still have Kwity Paye. I don't think I've taken. Yeah, I still have Kwity Paye on the board. Didn't go with him. I just feel like someone said the other day. I think again Rappaport tweeted it that there's someone like high up that said this is like the worst draft class in regards to like defensive tackles, defensive edge, in like a while. So not a lot of talent. Brady, I'm not exactly certain how desperately needed. I read a few articles and said they could use a little help at this position. But if you have a guy sitting there with this much talent, again, assuming he falls here, I got to go with Caleb Farley at 21, just because when you have a talent like that at corner, again, the Colts don't desperately need it, but I looked up who they have on the depth chart, and I think they potentially could use Caleb Farley, especially if it's like you don't desperately need him to start 16 games right away. So again, if he's there at 21, this is a guy who is probably a top 10, top 12 talent. And if he slides to 21, again, do you go based off need, where again the Colts, they can reach on a player if they feel that they need to, or you can get a guy where you feel you're getting a potential top 10 talent, a potential Pro Bowler at pick number 21. So this is where I have the fall ending for Caleb Farley. I got him going to number 21 to the Colts.
I will say about the secondary for the Colts is they did re-sign Xavier Rhodes. They have Kenny Moore, who's a great slot corner. I actually was hanging out with Kenny Moore this past weekend. Subtle flex, super cool dude.
Ooh.
Super cool. He's like 5'9", just tiny, shredded. They would not want to go up against him. But and Julian Blackman, who proved earlier or last season that he's one of a great young player. So a great young secondary, and I think like that's a good pick too. If he's available, I'm not opposed to that at all.
Literally for this one, the Colts was the one I spent the most time on, because I was like, there's like literally two positions here that seem like good picks, but I don't think. Who knows? We'll see how the draft shapes out in regards to them. But hey, that's the fun of this. That's the fun of guessing, making predictions on what's going to happen, which takes us to pick number 22. We got 3 picks left for the night before we go to some more top 5. So pick 22.
So for our last 3 picks here at 22, 23, and 24, I think these are the 3 where I really, really think anything can happen given who's on my board, who's off my board, and what these teams need. 22 was the easiest one for me to do between these 3 picks. And for the Titans, I have them taking Azeez Ojulari here. They could really use a versatile defender. They do need a wide receiver. I think they could add a wide receiver soon. But 22, I think, is too high to reach for either a wide receiver or a corner right now. Again, for wide receivers, we see a couple guys going early. And then later in the first round, I really think that some of these guys are going to fall to the second round, just depending on what these teams need. And then in terms of cornerbacks, like I've already said, I've got Greg Newsome off the board. I've got Farley off the board. I've got Surtain off the board. I've got all the top either corners or safeties off the board at this point. So take a versatile defender. Like I said, some of these scouting reports have Ojulari as either an outside linebacker or an edge rusher. So if you take him here, you've got a versatile defender. But also, like I said about Zaven Collins and about Rousseau or Phillips, either of the Miami guys, those guys could still fall to 22 as well. So if Ojulari is available, I say take him. If he's already gone and one of those other 3 guys is on the board, I say take them. I know that's kind of a scapegoat to say pick one of 4 guys, but in terms of my mock, I've got Ojulari.
Yeah, I mean, the Titans are a good football team, but they're a team that definitely has a couple of different needs, and I think you hit on a couple that are pretty important. The one I saw as the biggest need for them is corner, and I've still got Greg Newsome on my board, so this is where I have him going off the board. He's my 4th corner off. I had Surtain going at 10 to the Cowboys, and then I had Farley going at 16, and I had Horn going at 20, so here I have Newsome going at 22. Titans lost to Dory Jackson. They took a 2nd-round pick on Christian Fulton last year from LSU. I know he was up and down, but they need to establish some presence in that secondary because it's currently, as it's slated on their depth chart, to be Janoris Jenkins and Chris Jackson. So I think they need some help at the corner spot, and I think Newsome makes a lot of sense here. Josh has talked about it. He wasn't the best defensive back in that Northwestern secondary. I mean, Joseph was unreal, but he's not eligible. But I like Newsome. I think he's a good cover corner, and I think he's exactly what the Titans are looking for.
I also have them going defensive side of the ball, but I'm going to go front 7. I have them taking Owusu-Koramoah from Notre Dame. I think he's a good fit in the Tennessee system. You know, they have played a lot of different schemes over the last few years, and then when Vrabel came in, he sort of straightened things up. And I think an offensive-minded coach like Vrabel in Tennessee, picking a defensive player is like Owusu-Koramoah is a big, I don't want to say a reach, but it's a big step for him as a head coach, going out and getting a defensive player like Owusu-Koramoah. So I have Tennessee taking Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, the linebacker from Notre Dame.
Yeah, this pick was a trade. Going back to the last video, I had the Patriots trading with the Titans in regards to that. So I actually have the Patriots picking here, even though I still think come draft night, I think the Patriots are going to trade up to get one of these quarterbacks if they're falling. But again, we'll have to wait and see. But for the sake of this video, I got the Patriots here at number 22. And I got them going wide receiver. I got them going Rashad Bateman, who, Lyle talked about him, 5-10 minutes ago, that Rashad Bateman's a really good wide receiver. I think this guy has a chance to be a really good NFL wide receiver. Now, I know the Patriots, they went out, they signed a lot of offensive talent this offseason. They're running the killer two tight end duo that they ran years ago again, but they added a lot of good wide receiving weapons. They added Nelson Aguilar. They added another one. I'm blanking on, was it Kendrick Bourne? I want to say they added Kendrick Bourne maybe this offseason. They did, yeah.
Yeah, they added Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry, and then Kendrick Bourne and Aguilar.
Yeah, then they still have N'Keal Harry there. Granted, it's a lot of offensive weapons, but essentially none of those guys are wide receiver ones anytime forward, unless N'Keal Harry takes the next step that many people expect him to take. I got the one Rashad Bateman. He's a guy that can turn into a wide receiver one to develop over the years. Again, maybe they go quarterback, maybe they don't. Maybe they write it out with Cam Newton this year. Maybe get a quarterback in next year's draft, and all of a sudden, Rashad Bateman, he has a chance to be your wide receiver one moving forward. And plus, it doesn't hurt to have that many more offensive weapons. Considering the Patriots' defense, they were still pretty decent last year, considering they had half of their entire defense sitting out because of COVID. So they're returning a lot of those guys. Their defense is going to be fine. Make this offense as good as it can be for Cam Newton. Give him as many weapons as possible, and I think you're going to be fine there. So Patriots, I got them at 22.
Really quickly, speaking of sitting out from COVID, I don't know if you guys saw this past week, but our boy's officially back on the Vikings.
Yes, I saw this video, Michael Pierce.
Yeah.
Also, guys, I know I can't remember if I texted you guys, but I did get the second shot last week, and I felt like I got hit by a truck for about 2 days. It was something. I mean, I had no energy whatsoever. MJ felt completely fine, so I was the baby here for a couple days while I was taking all the heat. Get vaccinated if you can, everyone. We have pick number 23, 2 picks to go before we wrap this up and go to our top fives. Pick number 23, guys. What do we got?
All right, so now we really get into the 2 where I think that literally these teams could go for anybody right here. So for the Jets, I obviously have them picking at 2. I have them taking Zach Wilson. That was something that we talked about last week or the week before. I swept him and Fields. I originally had Fields going 2 and Wilson going 3, and then basically it seems like it's pretty clear cut now that it's going to be the other way around. So I have them taking their new quote-unquote franchise quarterback. So there's a lot of options with this pick. They could use it to take a cornerback, or they could take it to use it on a corner. They could help him out a little bit here. But with 23, I don't think they should reach for anybody. I think they should take the next best offensive line prospect available to protect their new quarterback, because they still need a running back or a wide receiver. They need more help because, again, we've talked about this 100 times on this show. Sam Darnold had nobody on that team. His best option was Jamison Crowder, and then who was his next option? Berrios? Like, what? So anyway, Braxton Berrios is a top 2 receiver on that team. Go out and get some help. But they're then picking at 34. They're literally picking at 23 and 34. And we've talked about this 100 times. There are so many good receivers in this draft. There's so many good running backs in this draft. Forget about the offensive skill players here. Take Tevin Jenkins, offensive lineman from Oklahoma State. Give your new quarterback a little bit of protection. And then with those picks later, take your running back, take your wide receiver. And at 34, you could probably ignore a wide receiver and just take a running back because you're picking again at 66. And that's kind of far too, like toward the back end of or toward the middle of the 3rd round. But like, there's so many wide receivers. You can take a wide receiver at 66. I think the Jets could very easily have a very good draft. They could very easily have a very bad draft. So take your offensive line alignment here. Take a running back at 34. Take a wide receiver at 66. And I think you're looking at a pretty decent young offense.
Yeah, I have the Jets at 23 here too, and I had them taking Zach Wilson at 2. And my idea here and my plan for them here in this mock draft is pretty similar to Josh's, where it's get your quarterback some help, protect them. It didn't happen with Sam Darnold. We talked about Joe Burrow and his lack of protection. If you're going to draft a franchise quarterback, you have to get him some protection. And to be fair to the Jets, they did take some steps. I mean, Mekhi Becton they hit on last year, and he was really good. So they hit on an offensive tackle.
Quentin Williams 2 years ago, too.
What's that?
Williams 2 years ago, too.
What, Quinnen Williams?
Yeah.
He's a defensive lineman.
Yep, never mind.
Okay. Anyway. So they had Becton last year, who was really good. They went with tackle. I think they're going to go interior here. I have Landon Dickerson with this pick, and I think that this is a really good fit for the Jets, who really need an interior lineman and specifically need a center. I know he's got injury history, and I know he's a little bit old for this draft class, but his size and his strength at the center position are off the charts. And again, make sure you protect your quarterback, especially at the center position. So I think Dickerson makes a lot of sense here, and I have him slated at 23.
This was asked to us last week. I believe it was last week or 2 weeks ago. Who is the most overlooked player in this draft? And I said Dickerson. I think he very well could be a first round talent. I just don't think, like Lyle said, that at the end of that is the injury history. What are you going to look at that, especially how recent it's been? For the Jets, I have them going defense, that's specifically DB. I have them taking Eric Stokes, the DB from Georgia. I think Georgia has a great secondary. I think we've had one or two guys from that Georgia defense get taken in the first round, at least on my draft board. But I've got Eric Stokes from Georgia going to the Jets.
Yeah, you look at the Jets one. This one seems like the perfect. You go quarterback number 2, then you take the best, offensive lineman, whatever you can get here. I like the Dickerson pick. It's just a matter. I know we talked about it last week, just because of the whole ACL thing. Where had he not torn his ACL, he probably would be a top 15, top 18 pick. I know that does scare some teams. I don't know if they reach for him here, especially considering there's a good chance they could get him with their 34th overall pick that Josh said they have. They very well could get him there. So I don't know if they go him there. There's no other guys here I can see them reaching, again, unless like Tevin Jenkins falls. If maybe somehow like Elijah Vera Tucker is somehow sitting there around here, I don't think there's anyone worth reaching. So I got them going defense. I actually got them going with Kwity Paye, just because I do think there's a chance this guy is a top 10, top 15 talent in regards to this draft. I think he's really good. Overall, it's just, like I said, not a pretty weak, defensive line class in general. But I still like him. I think you beef up that defense. And like Josh said as well, there's so many good wide receivers you can get so later in this draft. So you can take a chance, take Kwity Paye here. At number 34, you can take Dickerson. And then when you're picking at 64, there's a good chance that, you can get like an Amon-Ra St. Brown. You can get one of those other wide receivers that, you don't need an absolute wide receiver number 1, but definitely another wide receiver, pair him with Denzel Mims, who kind of could be a wide receiver 1. So the Jets can go a lot of different directions here. Again, it just depends on who's available. But I think Kwity Paye, again, I think is a really good talent. Kind of like with Caleb Farley that I gave to the Colts. They don't necessarily need a cornerback, but if you can get a guy with his talent there, you might have to go with just best player available, which I think right around this part, I think that's when Kwity Paye, again, depending on who's there, but I think Kwity Paye definitely could be the best available player when it comes to the Jets at 23, which again, the Jets, they're in a good place. I mean, the fact that you have 3 picks in the top 34, that's a very good problem to have. They could trade back, acquire more picks, trade up. So the Jets, they're going to be a fun team to follow on draft night. But guys, we have one final pick for the night, and then we're going to be getting to our top 5 O-line, our top 5 D-line prospects. Then we're going to be getting to an NFL draft Q&A. So if you want to ask us some questions, hit us up on Twitter at the HHShow_. You can go to our most recent tweet. You guys can reply there with your NFL draft questions, because everyone gets top priority over on Twitter before we come over to the YouTube live chat. So guys, our final pick of the night, who do we got?
All right, guys, brace yourselves. And I'm talking to you, Lyle. At 24, I've got the Steelers taking Bama running back Najee Harris. And here's why. Everywhere I've looked says that the Steelers have 4 glaring needs that need to be filled in this draft, regardless of if those players are going to start next year or not. They have 4 positions that they need filled: running back, tackle, center, and cornerback. And for me, I just had another offensive lineman at Tevin Jenkins taken off the board. I don't think they would reach just yet for Landon Dickerson. I think Leatherwood is potentially a decent option. But again, I think that they can get these guys later. If I'm the Steelers, I'm not taking Najee Harris 24th overall. But it seems like they are committed to taking a running back in either the first or the second round. And a lot of reports for the Steelers say they really, really like Najee Harris. So again, kind of like what Lyle said when we were talking quarterbacks, like maybe he wouldn't have Zach Wilson go before Fields. Maybe he wouldn't have Trey Lance taken before Fields, but he's drafting what he thinks they're going to do. I sincerely think the Steelers take Najee Harris at 24. I really do. So not what I would do, but they have those 4 glaring needs. They need to be picked somewhere. And think about it. If you take Najee Harris right here at 24, forget about who else is going to be starting if you fill those spots. Najee Harris is a guy that's going to get tons of touches next year. So if they take Najee Harris, they take Najee Harris, but that's what I think they do at 24.
If I was the GM of the Steelers, and that's what you told me to do, I probably would brace myself and fall out of my seat. But like we've talked about for this mock draft, this isn't about what I would do. It's about what the teams would do. And I share a similar view that you do. And it's that every report coming out with the Steelers is they seem to be set on taking a running back, and they seem to be set on going with Najee Harris, even more to what you were just explaining. So I have the same pick here. I have the same pick here. I wouldn't do it, but if this is what's coming out about the Steelers and this is what they want to do, this is what I'll mock, because it seems like, you know, we're going to go off facts or what we can accumulate to this point, and what we've seen is the Steelers want to take a running back. So I think Najee Harris would make a lot of sense. I thought about ETN here just because he reminds me a lot of Le'Veon Bell in a lot of ways, and the Steelers had so much success with Le'Veon back when he was in his prime there. But I mean, like you said, they seem to like Najee Harris. He can catch the ball just like ETN can, except he's even bigger. He's got good speed. He's got good agility for a guy his size. And I would not be shocked at all to see the Steelers go with Najee Harris at pick 24.
I like Najee. For the record, I just want to say I really like Najee Harris, and in fact, I think I would have him just in general if I'm ranking my running backs. I think Short Round said it too. For the record, I really like Najee Harris. I'm the same way. If I'm a Steelers fan and they take Najee, I would be annoyed that they didn't go somewhere else, because I'm kind of like Lyle. I think you can take running backs in the first round, but I think it's got to be later than 24. I wouldn't do it. But look, like if Najee steps in and has a good season in his first year with the Steelers, like as a Steelers fan, I wouldn't be angry. I'm not a Steelers fan. I'm also not the GM. I wouldn't do it myself, but I think they do.
No, and I agree with you. Like, to be honest, I like all 3 of these running backs. I really like Javonte Williams, to be honest with you. I think he's going to be really good. But yeah, and if you're going to take a running back in the first round, this is around when you do it. Like, it can't be much higher than this. But if you're a good team like the Steelers are, and you're consistently making the playoffs, and you think that this is what can get you over the top, then you know, it's your team, and you know better than we do. So yeah.
Coach Getter, I'm not gonna make you upset with this pick. At least I hope not. I'm not going Najee Harris, and I'm not going to go with one of the positions that all the reports are saying that they need. I'm going with the guy that is best available, who I think all of you had taken earlier. I'm going Kwity Paye. I think he fills the departure of Bud Dupree perfectly. Bud Dupree played an outside linebacker position. Kwity Paye is a 3-point stance defensive end, but is athletic enough where he can be bounced outside. I think Kwity Paye is the perfect pairing with a guy like TJ Watt, with a guy like with the rest of their Steelers defense, which has shown year in, year out, is just great. I think Kwity Paye, with his athleticism and his high football IQ from what we've seen with him at Michigan, is a great fit for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, the only downside with going fourth is that if you have a take you think is hot that you're excited about, you don't look so great when it comes to you. Guys, I also have Najee Harris going to the Steelers right here, just for the sole reason, one, they lost. Had they kept James Conner, I don't think so. But the fact that they lost James Conner, guys, again, you look at this Steelers depth chart at running back, you got Benny Snell, who I don't know if you guys remember, aside from that one game last year, I think in like week 1 or 2, when he took over from James Conner, had like 150 rushing yards. After that, he was atrocious. He was bad. Anthony McFarland, I don't think he's going to be anything in regards to the NFL. They added Kalen Ballage, good old friend Kalen Ballage. So those are your running backs. Now, if you're a team, the Steelers are going to be competing for a Super Bowl this year. They are going to be a good team. They have a fantastic defense. Their offense is loaded with weapons as long as Big Ben's healthy. Their wide receiver core is probably the best trio in the entire NFL. But that running back room is an absolute joke. I think Najee Harris is the best running back in this class. I think he can step in right away and be a valuable asset to the team. I think if he comes in, he's going to be receiving most of the work. He's a good pass catching back, which, Lyle was talking about with Le'Veon we saw a few years back. Le'Veon thrived in this offense. So, and I'm not saying that Najee Harris is going to turn into Le'Veon, but I think they're a good running back away from really being a Super Bowl contender. James Conner just obviously wasn't it. He was fine when he took over for Le'Veon a few years ago, but ever since then, he's just been not that good. And the Steelers have just been really struggling at the position ever since Le'Veon left. So again, don't take running backs in the NFL draft this early. I guess, again, 24 is around where you can maybe begin to go. But again, if you're the Steelers, I really don't know what else they desperately need. I mean, I think they're pretty much fine at any other position for the most part. So again, if you think you're a running back away from winning the Super Bowl, by all means, go for it. So I got them going with Najee Harris here at pick 24. So there you go. Guys, I'm really bummed though that we end here because we got the Jaguars picking at number 25, and I love my pick for the Jags at 25. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to wait till next Tuesday to share it with you guys, but I think it is a perfect pick. It is my favorite pick in regards to my entire first round. But before we get to our top 5, guys, we got a super chat that comes in from our man, Connor Conman 752. A couple of questions. Which is the worst 21st century quarterback draft class? 07 or 13. So that one I'll have to pretty much quickly load up and see who was in each class. For Josh, we'll get this one to you while I look up the 07 and 013 or the 13 class. Who was the biggest USC quarterback bust? And if you could have gone to any regular season college football game from the past 5 years, what game would you go to? So Josh, this middle question is for you. Who do you think is the biggest USC quarterback bust? Now, this also, I guess, could be a 2-part question. Is this in regards to like NFL draft quarterback bust, or just overall a quarterback at USC, like you make like a Max Brown type kind of a thing where they were just a bust there. But my guess is maybe NFL draft bust. But again, you can make it a 2-parter.
I'm going to go the direction of NFL draft bust, and I'll say, can you mute your mic?
Oh, sorry. Let me get on that real quick.
Hello. Okay, cool. NFL draft bust. I think the first obvious one would be Matt Leinart. The second one would be Matt Barkley. So 2 Matts, 2 guys that stayed probably a little longer than they should have in terms of playing in the NFL. Matt Leinart obviously was unbelievable in college. He set the Pac-12 passing records, and which have since been broken, obviously, now that there are teams that literally run the ball -4 times a game. And USC had Lendale White and Reggie Bush with Matt Leinart, and he still set all the passing records. I would say that it's Leinart. He was a little bit older heading into the NFL. He still got picked pretty high, and he just never really panned out for the Cardinals, which I think is really, really disappointing because he's really good and he was a really smart player and he's a really smart guy. So I think that he's a pretty big bust. And then the other one would have to be Matt Barkley. And I don't think it has anything to do with his play necessarily. He was unbelievable in 2011. Probably should have gone. Would have been a top 10 pick if he went into the draft, into the 2012 draft. Instead, he ended up in that 13 draft because he came back for his senior year. USC was like preseason number 1, wanted to win a national championship, and then had tons of injuries all season, including Barkley getting hit up high in the second to last game of the year. Missed the UCLA game when they were making a comeback, missed the Notre Dame game against the number 1 team in the country, missed the bowl game, and then just after not playing football for a year, got drafted 3rd round, which I think is high considering what happened to him, and then just never panned out. So, he's still around kind of. He's seen a little bit of action here and there the last couple of years. Not much behind Josh Allen in Buffalo, but I think it has to be those two guys that were just so good in college. And I mean, we're so highly touted, but maybe just stuck around a little bit too long. And that's something we talk about with, like Lyle talks about on the show, is, some of these guys that play so much and then stick around longer than they should have, a lot of times they risk injury and get hurt. And I don't blame Barkley for that, obviously, but Barkley hung around and got hurt in a really unfortunate injury in the second to last game of the year. And then Leinart stuck around, took 1 class his 5th year, dominated college football, but never panned out. So I think it's just, he took like a ballroom dancing class. That was the only thing he took his senior year, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, it's just a case of two guys sticking around a little bit too long, and that's not their faults, but it's just an unfortunate circumstance how it worked out.
All right, guys, I got the quarterbacks from the 2007 draft class and the 2013 draft class. I'm going to read them out for both, and then I'll let you guys let me know who you think was the worst. 2007, obviously, we started at the top with Jamarcus Russell. Unfortunately, Lyle, Brady Quinn, he was not it. We got Kevin Cobb, John Beck, Drew Stanton, Trent Edwards, Isaiah Stanbach, Jeff Rowe, Troy Smith, Jordan Palmer, and Tyler Thigpen. So that was 2007. Now we go to 2013.
It's that one.
No, it isn't.
There was one quarterback taken in the first round of 13.
I was about to say, I know Blake had to look it up. One quarterback went in the first round in 2013, and it was EJ Manuel. Like, I don't think we will ever see that again. I don't think we'll ever see one quarterback go in the first round in another draft.
And he didn't even go until pick 16. Yeah. So the 2013, we got EJ Manuel, Geno Smith, Mike Glennon, Matt Barkley, Ryan Nassib, Tyler Wilson, Landry Jones, Brad Sorensen, Zach Dysert, BJ Daniels, and Sean Renfree. Guys, looking at this off the top of my head, so Geno Smith, Lyle, is he still the backup in Seattle, or is he no more?
Not officially yet. He's still unsigned, although I bet you they bring him back.
So he's unsigned. EJ Manuel, I think, yeah, he's out. Mike Glennon, was the backup in Tampa Bay, right?
Tampa.
So he's still kicking it. Matt Barkley was technically still the backup in Buffalo last year. I think he even saw the field a few times. But with Mitchell Trubisky in Buffalo now, I think Matt Barkley's time may unfortunately come to an end.
He's a free agent right now.
Ryan Nassib, he hasn't been in the NFL since 2015. EJ Manuel hasn't been in the NFL since 2017. Tyler Wilson, he never even made the NFL, and he was picked 112. Landry Jones, he's been out since 2014. All these guys, 2014, 2015. So this draft class, which was only 8 years ago now, it has been 8 years. And the lone remaining active quarterbacks are technically Geno Smith, who very well could be out, Matt Barkley, who very well could be out, and Mike Glennon. I don't know if he'll be back in Tampa Bay. He very well could be out. So to answer the question, Connor, I think it's 2013 without question.
You know what might make it worse is the fact that so many of those guys, going into that 2012 season, both Barkley and Geno Smith were expected to be top 10 picks. Like, there were a bunch of guys in that group right there that were expected to be first round picks.
So, wow, that was pretty bad right there. So, Connor, I guess we have one final question right here from before we get to our top fives for both guys. Just really quickly, any game, regular season game, so not a playoff game, not a bowl game, regular season game from the past 5. What game are you going to?
Kick 6.
I don't think that was 5 years. I think that was 2013.
Yeah. It's. I was gonna say I was gonna say Oklahoma, Georgia, but then I read a little closer and Connor said regular season. Regular season. I'm biased here, but the Clemson Notre Dame game this past year was pretty exciting, and that was fun. So I feel like I would have enjoyed that one.
Red River when Dicker the kicker hit the game winner.
That's what I was gonna do.
So I'm gonna say, kind of like I was gonna say Clemson Notre Dame. To be a little bit biased, I'll say the USC Texas game from 2017 that went to overtime and SC won it. That was one that Lyle and I watched together, and my parents were at that game going nuts and sending me photos the whole time. So I was very jealous. I wish I was at that one. But one that I think would have been really cool that I think a lot of people are forgetting or would forget is the Baker Mayfield versus Pat Mahomes game, when Baker threw for like 500 yards and Mahomes threw for like 700 yards, and they combined for like 15 touchdowns or something insane like that. And we were all at the ASU game, like watching it on our phones. And this was obviously like a year after we all saw Pat Mahomes go off at ASU and still get beat. But yeah, I think that would have been a crazy game to go to.
Yeah, that's a good one. The one I was thinking of was a few years ago, the Ohio State-Michigan game when JT Barrett was short, but they said he wasn't, and Curtis Samuel walked in the touchdown. We got some other good ones. Short Round said LSU Bama 2019, and Nicholas says LSU A&M, the 7 overtime thriller. So some good ones for sure. Connor, thank you for the super chat donation. Again, if you guys have any comments, questions, takeaways, anything like that, like Connor just did, you guys can hit us up in the super chat. We'll read your question. You guys can donate however much you would like, help support the show, and again, helps us read your question, because again, this was a fun one. He had 3 questions for us. He got his money's worth on that one. Some 3 really good questions as well. So Connor, you always have some good ones. Well done. All right, guys, we have time to go through our top 5 offensive lineman prospects, our top 5 defensive lineman prospects. We've pretty much explained all these guys for the most part in regards to doing our draft already. So no need to go really in depth on any of these guys. So we can go through, try to get to as many Q&A questions as we can, because I know we got a lot on Twitter and we got some over here on the YouTube live chat. So again, you guys can just say your top 5. If there's a reason you have for having a guy at number 1, maybe some guys you didn't have in your top 5, a brief explanation. But again, we've already talked about a lot of these guys that we're going to mention. So again, no need to go too in depth. So guys, top 5 offensive linemen, we'll just go around and go 5 through 1.
So in no particular order, I actually added a 6th one on here too. So Penei Sewell from Oregon, Rashawn Slater from Northwestern, Elijah Vera Tucker from SC, Tevin Jenkins from Oklahoma State, Christian Darrisaw from Virginia Tech. All those 5 already off my board through 24 picks. And then I also have Alex Leatherwood from Alabama.
I had Sewell at 1, Slater at 2, Vera Tucker at 3, Darrisaw at 4, and then Dickerson at 5. I mean, the one thing with Dickerson, like we said, is the injuries. They think he's got a chance to come back right around week 1, if not shortly after. So if he's healthy, I think that's a big impact player.
I've got Sewell at 1, Slater at 2, Vera Tucker at 3, Darrisaw at 4, Jenkins at 5, and I have Leatherwood up there as well as an honorable mention 6th spot.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, all of ours are going to be exactly the same. I got Sewell at 1, Slater at 2, Vera Tucker at 3, Darrisaw at 4, and I got Jenkins at 5. But I do think that Dickerson, again, if he's healthy, I think there's a chance he could be probably 2 or 3 in regards to talent-wise when it comes to this draft. All right, guys, top 5 defensive linemen. Again, this is just anyone on the front, so this can be D-line, D-edge, anything like that, anyone that's just on that front. So we're combining them into this top 5 for this one.
So I guess my offensive lineman was in order 1 through 6. Here's another one where I have 6 that this one is officially not in any particular order. I've got Gregory Rousseau from Miami, Christian Barmore from Bama, who's still on my board, Jalen Phillips from Miami, Kwity Paye, who you guys talked about already today, he's still on my board, Azeez Ojulari that we talked about quite a bit. And then my 6th one is somebody we haven't talked about really at all, and I would not be shocked if he shows up on at least one more of your lists. Aleem McNeil from North Carolina State. People seem to be pretty high on him as a pretty good pass rusher and run stopper, so maybe we'll see him go in the next episode.
We call that a tease.
I have Jalen Phillips at 1. I have Gregory Rousseau at 2. He's not off my board yet. I really like him, however. So I have Rousseau at 2. I have Kwity Paye at 3, Christian Barmore at 4, and Azeez Ojulari at 5.
I didn't put mine in any order. I just have 5 guys. Kwity Paye, Azeez Ojulari. I have Gregory Rousseau, Jalen Phillips, and then also I have Christian Barmore. There's an interior guy some love.
And for my top 5, number 1, I got Kwity Paye. Number 2, I got Jalen Phillips. Number 3, again, linebacker, defensive end, I'm not exactly sure, but I got Azeez Ojulari. Number 4, name you guys didn't mention, Joseph Ossai from Texas. I really like him. I got him at number 4. And number 5, I got Gregory Rousseau, which this whole Gregory Rousseau one, I'm just very interested in, guys, because this was a guy where coming into the college football season, he seemed like a consensus top 5, top 6, definitely a top 10 guaranteed pick. And he is just slid because people have started to dive into his film and realize maybe he's not exactly what we want. Supposedly, though, I just saw a report that came out today that he put on 25 pounds of muscle. So this guy's beefed up since the last time we saw him. But he's definitely a top talent. I got no problem having him like number 1 or number 2. But I know a lot of people that are kind of hesitant on him and whatnot. So those are our top 5s. Next week, we're going to be doing our top 5 linebackers, top 5 linebackers and top 5 defensive backs. We'll combine cornerbacks and safeties, maybe even kickers and punters too, if we're really feeling frisky in regards to that. So next Tuesday, we're going to do the final 8 picks in regards to our NFL mock draft. We're going to do top 5 linebackers, top 5 defensive backs. And again, next Thursday, we're going to be going live during the NFL draft. Guys, do you want to answer some questions from our viewers?
Just a few.
Just a few. All right, guys. If you have any questions for us, you guys can hit us up in the live chat. You guys can also go over to our Twitter at the @HHShow_. Hit us up on Twitter right now. We'll for sure answer your question because, again, people over there at Twitter, they get top priority.
While we're doing this really quickly, we need a really good short round question tonight, like a really good one.
So short round, if you're out there, which I definitely know you are, get your question ready. Save it for us for about 10, 15 minutes when we're wrapping up the show because we need it. We need that in us. Guys, this is a fun one. I told Josh this earlier. Almost always football blog / Juan Soto for MVP. What is a draft pick you remember rolling your eyes at? Now, this can be in regards to your own team. This can be in regards to another team. What draft pick do you remember rolling your eyes at? Also, short round already said question, locked and loaded when I'm called upon.
Love it.
Oh, this first one is so easy for me, and I think we can all agree on this one because I remember when Mitch Trubisky went at 2, we all groaned in the same room. So mine is Trubisky, and we were right. So yeah.
Yep, I agree. That's what I told Blake earlier was, I said either Daniel Jones or Trubisky, but at least in defense of Daniel Jones, he has had his moments where he's looked like he could be pretty good other than falling down on that breakaway run. But again, like they saw something they liked in him. And like, I don't want to dismiss that one fully yet, but the Trubisky one, oh my God. I mean, you know what? Another one, I'm going to be totally honest, was the Jared Goff one. I was fine with the pick if they had not traded so much to get that pick, and then now, a few years later, traded everything to get rid of him. That makes it so much worse. But yeah, Trubisky, and then honestly, probably Jared Goff.
One of the ones that comes to my mind, I didn't have this reaction because I really didn't realize it at the time, but it was a public opinion, was when the Colts drafted Darius Leonard. Bleacher Report said it was the worst pick in the draft. That they gave it an F ranking. They were like, this is the worst pick in the draft, and 2-time All-Pro, Pro Bowler in his first, few years. So
what is it with draft analysts and linebackers? Because they gave Darius Leonard an F. They did the same thing with Bobby Wagner when he was drafted. He got an F, and their report was looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane. So who knows?
That's awesome. Yeah, but that wasn't a personal one. That's just one that I think of publicly is very public.
The Trubisky one, it's just so good for all the different reasons. One, the fact that they took him over the other quarterbacks that were available. Two, it's the fact that they traded up from 3 to 2 when it was the 49ers, I want to say, did they trade with? Was it the 49ers they traded up one spot?
Yeah, it was.
Where there was no chance the 49ers were even going to take a quarterback. So not exactly certain who the Bears were scared of or what they were scared of when they could have got him at 3. And look how that turned out now. So that one's hilarious. There's a few. There's one I want to talk about from last year, and this might be a random one, guys, but it's the Raiders at number 19 when they took Damon Arnett, because considering last year, I didn't see one single mock draft leading up to the entire draft that had him anywhere near the first round. I don't know where he was ranked by a lot of experts, but he was definitely like a top 40, maybe a top 50 guy, and the Raiders reached and took him at 19. I remember that when I was thinking, what in the hell are they doing? I had to double check to see who even he was because I don't remember seeing him in any mock going in the first or second round. And as a Saints fan, I had to throw one in here. A few years back, I guess 3 years ago now, when I was at an airport in Oregon for one of my business trips, courtesy of ASU, I was watching the NFL draft because I was still hanging out there. And the Saints traded up to, I believe, the number 13 and number 14 overall pick. And I'm thinking, oh, yes, they are going to take Lamar Jackson. They are trading up for Lamar Jackson. And they traded up, I think they were like at 28, 29. They had a pretty high draft pick. So I'm thinking, wow, they are trading up in this draft to get someone big. And it was Marcus Davenport, who hasn't by all means been awful, but I remember thinking, you just traded up 15 spots to get Marcus Davenport, who, again, at the time, at a UTSA, I didn't see going anywhere near the top 20, and the Saints traded up to get him. Again, I was thinking Lamar Jackson was on the way, and I really could go for having him right now with the Saints. So that one I remember going, an expletive was dropped in the airport in Oregon when I found that out. They went Marcus Davenport there.
To go back to the Trubisky thing real quick, I think something that makes the whole Trubisky situation so much better is, wasn't it right after the draft, his mom came out and was like, his name's not Mitch, it's Mitchell.
Mitchell.
After everyone called him Mitch for like the last 2 years. And she's like, it's Mitchell. And then his mom was like, and then Mitchell was like, I mean, yeah. And that was like right after. That was like either right before or after the draft.
Like, everybody gives the Bears such a hard time because they didn't draft Mahomes, which, again, it's easy now, but he was still such an unknown and he was such a raw prospect back then. Watson is the one that I can't get over because he was a winner. He didn't have many weaknesses. In fact, I think people said his one weakness was his deep balls, which certainly don't seem to be a problem now. That's the one where I'm like, now, how do you mess that up? I don't know.
We got one right here from Shah Amin, or when the Raiders took Cleveland Farrell in the top 5. I think it was the number 4 overall pick, and he is just again, it wasn't like a complete shocker because I know he was projected to be a first rounder, but I think he was like middle teens. I want to say maybe like 20s. And all of a sudden he comes in and I think the Raiders again took him at number 4, I want to say. So that one was a shocking one as well. All right, guys, our next question that comes from @Bengals. Please protect Burrow. So don't worry, they will. The Penei Sewell will be a Bengal. Your favorite non-quarterback player that you can't wait to see in the NFL. So your favorite non-quarterback that you're excited to see how they pan out.
I'll jump in very quickly. Penei Sewell. I'm going to go non-skill position because I figured you guys would all go skill, but there was so much hype around, Quentin Nelson, and we see what he did, and, check downs, posting highlights of a guard. You don't ever see that. I think Penei Sewell is going to get a similar treatment.
Yeah, a good call on that because mine are Ja'Marr Chase and Kyle Pitts.
So I'll steer away from those because those were the 3 that I would have picked. So I'm actually going to go to someone who you guys could probably predict and somebody that has not gotten much attention, at least draft-wise, and it's Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like, I think a good comp is Juju Smith-Schuster, who has had early success in the NFL. And obviously, I think there are some other wide receivers that I think are more talented than he is. Ja'Marr Chase is one of them. That's probably who I would have said here. But since Lyle said it, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think that he could have a pretty good NFL career, and I think whoever gets him is getting a steal, considering they'll probably take him in the 3rd round.
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, obviously, Penei Sewell seems like the easy one just because this is a guy that could be a generational talent that we can watch before our very eyes. Obviously, Ja'Marr Chase, I'm just excited to see what he can do in the NFL because we only really had the 1 year at LSU, it seemed, where we got to see like the full highlight reel. So I'm excited to see what he can do. And what I was going to say, that was actually going to be my first answer, but Lyle took it. Kyle Pitts, just because, again, I've talked about this. I need to do some more, listening to podcasts and whatnot, where I said this in a few weeks ago on the show where Kyle Pitts very legitimately could be a top 5 tight end in the NFL next year. You got Kelsey ahead of him. You got Kittle. You have Darren Waller ahead of him, probably Mark Andrews. But after that, you can make the case that Kyle Pitts could be the 5th best tight end. And by the end of the year, he could probably be maybe a top 3. So it really is exciting to see where he's going to go in this draft because, again, we all have an idea about quarterbacks. We have an idea of who's going to be taking an offensive lineman. There are like any team that's in the top 15, I wouldn't be shocked if Kyle Pitts goes there. You have teams that can trade up potentially. If Kyle Pitts were to fall to like 9, 10, 11 for whatever reason, teams could be trading up. So I'm really excited to see where he goes. I hope he goes to a place with a really good situation because this guy's going to be fun to watch next year. Our next question comes from a friend of the show. I know Brady mentioned him earlier, Coach Jarris Getter. He's the defensive quality control coach at Dayton. He wants to know, who is the next best lineman prospect after Penei Sewell? Now, this is kind of an interesting one, guys. Normally, offensive linemen don't get too much love, but this is a pretty stacked class. And again, Penei Sewell, he's our consensus number 1. But who would you have is the next best? If Penei Sewell didn't exist, who do you think would be the number 1, or who do you think should be the number 1 offensive lineman taken off the board in this draft?
I think it's Slater. After Penei Sewell, I think it's Slater. The scouting reports seem to be pretty good on him. I think that he would. So I had him going 11 to the Giants, and I think that's a good fit. Some people say that maybe he didn't have as much experience as they'd like, or like didn't see too much action. But again, I mean, he was so good against Chase Young even a couple of years ago. If it's not Rashawn Slater, I think it's Elijah Vera Tucker, just because I think he's probably outside of Sewell, who is otherworldly. Who's an otherworldly offensive line prospect. I think Elijah Vera Tucker is probably the most versatile offensive line prospect. You can either have him at guard or tackle on either side, seemingly. So I'll go with Slater, but I think the most versatile is Elijah Vera Tucker.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it has to be Slater, and I think Slater could play guard if they need him to, but he seems pretty safe.
Yeah, I also have Slater. I think it's a pretty. I'm not going to say a close 1 and 2 because I think Sewell's leaps and bounds better than everybody else at this position, but I think it's Slater.
Yeah, again, Slater's the guy where you still look at some mocks and they still have Slater going. I mean, respected mocks too. They have Slater going above Sewell. Now, Josh, this just reminded me when talking about respected mocks. You were looking at a mock draft earlier this afternoon, and I said, okay, just because of this pick alone, you have to disregard the entire mock draft because it is not trustworthy at all. Can you share with these two gentlemen and our audience here who the Chicago Bears we're taking at pick number 20 in this CBS Sports mock draft? You might want to have these guys potentially guess. Just a random guess at who they had them taking at pick number 20 in the first round of the NFL draft.
I will give you guys a hint. No, that would be such a good pick compared to this, Brady. So if you thought that Trubisky was bad, this would be worse, even though it's not that high at number 20 compared to Trubisky and a top 5 pick. But just if I'll let you guys open it up to guesses, you'll each get one guess, and then I'll narrow it down a little more for you.
Ian Book.
No, I feel like that's a good guess. Yeah. No.
That is
Brady.
A good guess.
I don't think they'll guess it.
I don't.
Do you want me to narrow it down?
Yeah.
Pac-12.
David Mills.
David Mills at number 20 from Stanford at 20th overall
Who
to the Chicago Bears.
What?
Davis Mills from Stanford.
Yeah.
What site was this?
CBS Sports.
Yeah,
CBS Sports also had Cal winning the Pac-12 last year. So,
that's right.
I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I've started to hear people think that QB6 in this draft might be Mills over guys like Trask and Mon, but at pick 20, like, come on, Bears, you guys can get this guy in the second round. Like, yeah, no.
It was too good. It was too good.
In the second round, you could get him in the third round.
Yeah.
Now here's one. Now this. I just want to throw this out because Circa, they released all of their over/under picks for essentially every player imaginable. I need to find a way to get down to Circa ASAP because they have Kellen Mond the over/under at pick 180. Pick 180 is like what, the 5th round, 6th round? That's free money. Am I wrong? Is that free money, guys? Pick 180 for Kellen Mond. This is a guy that can go in the 2nd round at the worst 3rd.
Yeah, I feel like he'll go before 180.
That's free money. All right, guys, we got one more question from Twitter. Then we'll open it up to YouTube for a few, and then we'll get to short round. Then we'll wrap up this show. Andrew Coster, our buddy, wants to know, with the spread being the most common offense in today's game, which type of offense do you want to see more in? Do you want to see more college football teams run?
Triple option.
Yes, that's the only correct answer. Every team has to run the triple option to make it fair.
The wing T.
The power I.
The double wing.
Yeah, the
double
wing T. Isn't that the wing T?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
My high school ran double wing my freshman year. So 2 years before, they had the 2 best running backs in the city section and ran for 500 yards every game. I mean, we were Michael Carter and Javonte Williams good. 2 years later, with not those running backs, double wing doesn't work when you run the ball every single play and your quarterback is a baseball player. No offense, my guy who's not watching for sure, but your quarterback is a baseball player.
I think it's got to either be triple option or you go full house with, 2 fullbacks, a tight end in the backfield, and then your running back.
Oh, that loud moan you heard was from Arizona. That was Ron Wolfley, who heard two fullbacks and just let out one massive moan. All right, guys, a few moments to get through some of these YouTube ones because there are some good ones. Black Knight wants to know who is getting drafted first, Kyle Trask or Kellen Mond.
Kyle Trask.
I'm gonna say Mond gets drafted first. If I were a GM, I think I would value Kyle Trask over Kellen Mond. I mean, he was a Heisman finalist for a reason. He had a really good season. Blake pointed that out very early that he could potentially be a Heisman finalist before the season started, and he was. And I think he's got the tools. He just does not compare to the other quarterbacks that are high up at the top of this draft class. So I would prefer Kyle Trask. I think it's Kellen Mond.
I'm going to say Trask. I'm still interested in how teams would view him if not for that last game where he threw 4 picks, because before that he was so good. I don't think he'd go ahead of any of these first 5 QBs, but I wonder if it'd be more of a consensus. Oh, yeah, somebody will get him late in the first round, but I think it'll still be Trask.
I think Trask as well, just because you're going to see potentially, his 2 main weapons get drafted in the first round, and what are good weapons without their quarterback. So I'm going to go Kyle Trask.
Yeah, I think Trask as well. He might slide into the end of the first. Guys, a final question before we get to short round comes from Shaw. I mean, if you're Miami, are you taking Najee Harris at 18, or are you going to wait till the second round and draft Javonte Williams? Well, this is a perfect question for Lau right here because we already know his easy answer on this one.
Yeah, so, I mean, this is exactly, like, in all seriousness, when people talk about the replaceability of running backs, I mean, this is, to a T, why you wait. Because, again, both guys are good, and I really like Javonte Williams. But if you have a chance at 18 to get a player at a more valuable position than running back, and then take a running back in the second round like Williams, you do it. So if you're the Dolphins, you have to wait. Like, take Williams in the second round. I don't think the difference is going to be that much, even if Najee ends up being better.
Mind you,
you're also not going to – sorry, go ahead.
I said, mind you, the best rookie running back this last year was a second-round draft pick.
You're also not going to lose between 18 and 32. You're not going to lose all of those running backs. There's no way. And especially if more people had Lyle's philosophy, they would all still be there in the second round. Because we're talking Carter, we're talking Williams, Najee Harris, ETN. Like, who else is on this list? I had a sleeper on there. I said Kenneth Gainwell. He's still going to be on there. Trey Sermon will be on there. All these, like, you're not going to lose all those guys between 18 and 32. So, and they're picking early second round too. I think I said they were at like 34, 36 or something like that. So their picks are there. They have a ton of high draft picks, like Blake mentioned earlier. There's no reason to reach at 18 when you have other issues that need to be dealt with.
Yeah, looking at the Dolphins, really quickly, they have pick number 36 in the second round, courtesy of the Texans, and they also have pick number 50. So there's a chance that at number 36, I assume, Javonte Williams should be there. Hey, maybe even Travis Etienne is still there at number 36. So although Najee's going to be... Maybe teams realize the whole thing about running backs. Maybe Najee's there at 36 and they get some miracle or they can trade up. But I think getting Javonte Williams. So again, I think Javonte Williams is going to be a stud. If you can get him in the second round, by all means, go that route. All right, guys, time to go to the final question. This comes from our man Short Round. Assign another animal or assign one another an animal that embodies each other. Got to think on this one. You got to think.
Do I have to give all 4 or all 3 of mine at once, or can I go one at a time? No one answered. I'm going to do what I want. So for Blake, I'm going to go chimpanzee. I could just see chimpanzee Blake just sitting back, just against a tree, just at the bottom, like sitting like this, drinking an 805, whatever, chomping on some bananas.
Scratching
so yes, that one for sure. So Blake's easy. That's a chimpanzee for sure. Brady, either a black bear or a grizzly bear. It kind of depends. I'm not.
What type of bear is the best bear, though?
That's a good question too. But it's simply kind of. It depends where you are, whether you're the grizzly bear or the black bear. But also, you give off like Baloo bear vibes from Jungle Book. So I'm going to go Blake chimpanzee, Brady's a bear, and Lyle. Oh, Lyle. What type of specimen is Lyle? I'm going to sit back. I'm going to pace myself with this one. And let's let you guys throw out some ideas.
I don't even know. I mean, have you guys thought of any for any of us? I thought it was supposed to be, when I read this question, it was like pick an animal that embodies another animal. I didn't realize we were like assigning it to each other.
Did I totally misunderstand this question?
No, you did not.
No, I did.
I read it the way you did it first too, Lyle.
Man, I don't know. Does anybody else have any that have come to mind yet?
I'll go with one that came to mind. This one's easy. Well, Brady, of course, with Black Bear, that one makes the most sense. Yeah. I just think, Black Bear, it fits. It fits because, especially, if you're in Memphis. But I think for Lyle's an easy one. I think I go cat. I go cat. You feel like cats are kind of quiet. They kind of want to do their own thing. But sometimes they just go nuts. Sometimes they just go absolutely ballistic and they can scare the hell out of you. If you're watching a Seahawks game or a Mariners game, you fear for your life. It's safe to say you fear for your life. But I know, Josh, the sun gets pretty bad. Welcome to the chateau. We'll close this here. So yeah, Lyle was the easy one with the cat. Again, Brady, the black bear. Yeah. Josh, I'll think of something. I feel like I'm melting. There we go.
I got mine. I think for Josh, I'm going to go with a peacock because I've seen you run around and do that before. So I'm going to go peacock. Blake, the chimpanzee's really good, Josh, but I don't think that's. I'm going to stick with what you said for me. I'm going to go panda bear for Blake though. So it's a bear, but it's a little different. And then Lyle is a blue whale.
Yeah, I'm starting to get kind of in the same field. What is a manticore? I have no idea.
According to Google.com, it's Jujul. A manticore is a mythical creature that was said to be unconquerable. Whoa. Yeah, so that's interesting. Joseph McLean in the comments says giraffe, a giraffe from the movie Madagascar. I feel like that'd be a decent one, but the issue is, wow, this is interesting. We actually have a friend whose contact photo in my phone is a giraffe. His nickname for a lot of people is Tall Matt, so he's the giraffe. He has a giraffe onesie that I've now exposed.
But
yeah, interesting.
I think for me, the one that was the easiest to decide was Lyle being a blue whale. If you know, you know.
Yeah, see, I just Googled something too, and the blue whale was the first thing that came up. So I think Lyle's a blue whale too.
Let's see if Lyle catches our drift.
Yeah, maybe a little. I don't know. I was starting to get in the same field. I was going to say something of like the bird family for Josh. I don't know. Brady said peacock. I was going to say short round stumping me with this. I was going to say like a blue jay or something like that.
Spread my wings and fly.
Okay, I was going to say blue jay, but sure, I'll say peacock. Why not? Yeah, peacock. I'll say brown bear to be a little to make the distinction for Brady, and then I'll say polar bear for Blake because Brady said you said panda bear. So I'll go. I'll make a distinction again. And say,
Short round says Josh is a pigeon, Brady is a rhino, and Blake is a hedgehog.
Bro, a hedgehog's boring. Come on. At least pigeons are cool. Pigeons are government property, man. Those are awesome.
Drones. Birds are drones. Birds are
everywhere.
And a rhino's cool.
Yeah, man.
So Blake, what were yours again?
Lyle was a cat. Brady was a brown bear, or no, a black bear roaming the streets of Memphis. And I'll just go with let's just go with the dolphin. A dolphin's majestic.
I like that. Thank you.
You know what?
They're very smart.
Change mine for Josh.
Oh no,
Josh is a buck.
Why? Oh, what? Are you okay? Is Brady getting robbed?
The show's going off.
Oh God. That's funny. Yeah, he thinks he's real funny.
Great book, by the way.
It is a fantastic book. Yeah. No, that's clever. Clever.
Boy. So it's a perfect fitting way to wrap up this insanely weird episode of the Harris Highlight Show. Thanks to everyone that joined in on the fun. Again, you guys can follow us on Twitter at the HH_show. That way, whenever we post Q&A questions, you guys can get in your questions over there. We, tweet a lot of fun stuff, especially during the college football season. But during the off season, there's some helpful stuff over there in regards to when we're going to do shows. Again, we're going to be back here next Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern doing the final 8 picks for our NFL mock draft series. It's going to be picks 25 through 32. Then when we're done with that, we're going to quickly go through our 1 through 32. We're going to jot them down, maybe have a little contest to see how many people or who gets the most right in regards to Thursday. Next Thursday, NFL draft. We're going live. To be determined what time exactly, how long we're going to be going, but we're going to be drinking. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you would like to potentially be on the show when your team's picking, shoot us a DM at the HH_. We'll get you on when your team's picking. That way you can get your immediate thoughts, your takeaways, anything like that. So again, as long as you're not a fan of the Saints, the Colts, the Rams, or the Seahawks, if by any chance the Rams or Seahawks all of a sudden make the night interesting and trade into the first round. But again, that's coming next Thursday night. Follow us on Twitter at the HH_. To be more informed. We posted more info in regards to that, in regards to how to get on the show, and just everything you need to know for next Thursday night. Guys, any parting words while Brady resumes his lucky bastard Joe Buck bastard luck buck.
Real quick, I met a fan of the show over the weekend. Sort of. I think he's a fan of the show.
Oh, who'd you meet?
I met one of Josh's buddies, Drew Carter, down in Alabama. So. Fan of the show, yeah.
Brady texted me and said, I think I'm standing next to Drew Carter, who covered Auburn and Alabama this past year, in Alabama as opposed to in somewhere else. And I said, oh, you should introduce yourself. So I texted Drew Carter and said, Droodle, one of my friends thinks he's standing next to you. He's in whatever vest number, which Brady told me. And he responded with, oh, you mean my new pal Brady? I was like, oh, dope. So again, we got to get Drew on the show next time he's out covering Alabama or Auburn.
All right, that was a great end of the show, guys.
Yeah, that's all right. See you next week.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. As always, give this video a thumbs up, drop a comment, follow us on Twitter, do all that fun stuff for the night. For Josh Schaefer, Lyle Goldstein, Brady Klein, this has been Blake Harris live from the Chateau in beautiful Monrovia, California, as we're rocking these beautiful Dodgers gold jerseys. Lyle, the Mariners took a split. You got to love it. The Mariners are coming. They're going to hit the over on my 73.5 wins. They very well could win the division. If that happens, there's going to be an earthquake in Seattle because you don't want to know what's coming. So the Mariners are legit. Not as legit as the Dodgers, but that's okay because 2022, Dodgers M's in the World Series. Again, Lyle Goldstein, Josh Schaefer, Brady Klein from the Chateau, Blake Harris. Follow us on Twitter next Tuesday night, next Thursday night, a whole bunch of stuff. We'll see you guys right back here.